name is Amy Griffin for overallquilter.com. Welcome to video number 4, squaring up your quilt. So you're done with your quilt top, you've gotten it quilted, and you're ready to put your binding on. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you have nice straight edges. Sometimes when you're quilting or with your quilting, your borders tend to get a little bit distorted depending on how much quilting you've put on them. So today's video, I'm going to show you how to take your square ruler and your long ruler and get a nice straight edge cut so that your binding will sit nice and straight. But before that, I want to show you some patterns that we've been working on, the Floral Flink collection, and here they are. Here's 6 of 12 current Floral Flink patterns available on overallquilter.com. Just click on the online shop link. My favorite is the Monarch. These are all raw edge applique patterns, great for lots of thread play opportunities. Today's tools are the Olfa mat, rotary cutting mat, a 10.5 inch square, a 6.5 by 24 inch long ruler, and a 60 millimeter rotary cutter. I like the 60 millimeter when I'm squaring up because I'm going through multiple layers. Remember, you're going through your top, your batting, as well as your backing. So having the 60 millimeter gives me a better grip on my cutting. So we're ready to cut our quilt down or trim our quilt down so that we can add our binding. But we've got to make sure first that we are even all the way through, that our border is even all the way through. If you've started with the 6.5 inch border, once you've taken that seam in, you're now down to 6.25. The more quilting you have, the more chances of your border being distorted. So I'm going to take my square ruler and I'm going to position it so that I can square down to 6 inches all the way around, making sure that my borders are all consistent. Take your 12.5 or a 10.5 inch ruler, square ruler, and line up the 6 inch line with the outside border and inner border seam. I'm going to make sure that that's nicely lined up, and if you need to wiggle your quilt a little bit, it's okay. You want to make sure that you're nice and straight. My 6 inch line is nice and straight on that seam, and my 6 inch line is nice and straight on this seam. Now I can take my rotary cutter and cut all the way out. And I always start on the corners because I want to use my square on the corner. So I'm going to do one corner and then I'm going to continue using my 6.5 inch ruler. And I'm just going to turn my quilt. And this is a fairly large quilt, so I want to put it on my table. The other thing you don't want to do is have your quilt dragging on the floor because it does pull on you. You want to make sure that you have the entire quilt on the table, which is sometimes kind of hard if you don't have a big enough space. That's why I like the large mats. So I'm going to take my 6.5 inch ruler. I'm going to find my 6 inch measurement and once again line that 6 inch line with the seam that's between my outside border and my inside border. That last seam that you have there. Now I'm nice and straight all the way through. Now if you've seen my first video, the cutting video, you'll know that when I cut a long piece, I cut halfway, reposition my hand, and cut the rest of the way. And I'm going to do that again when I'm cutting my borders. Once again, ensure that you have a nice straight line. Start, go halfway, rotary cutter down, reposition your hand, and cut all the way. And now we're going to go ahead and move our quilt down again. And as you see, we are doing it in sections because this is a large quilt. So I'm going to move my quilt, reposition my ruler, making sure, once again, that my 6-inch line is sitting right on that seam. And I'm going to cut halfway to my ruler, reposition my hand, and cut all the way through. Now as I get closer to the corner, well, we've got one more long ruler, and then we'll use our square ruler again, and I'll show you how to do that one more time. Take my long ruler, find my 6-inch line. Now all borders are not 6.5 inches, so if you've got an 8.5-inch border, you'll need a larger ruler. You'll need an 8.5-inch ruler. I'm going to go ahead and start, go halfway, reposition my hand, and continue through. Now I've gotten to the corner. And I'm going to take my square ruler, and once again I'm going to position that 6-inch on the corner there. Now my ruler's not big enough, so before I do that, I'm going to take my long ruler one more time and get that cut just a little bit so that I can use my square ruler. Once again, I'm going to find my 6-inch line. Here's my 6-inch line. I'm going to line that up with my corner seam, and I'm going to cut, and then I'm going to cut on top one more time, and you have a nice 90-degree angle. And you want to do that all the way through, catching or cutting all corners and all long edges, and you'll be ready for your binding.